When we talk about Nazi concentration camps, most of us picture barbed wire fences, overcrowded barracks, and watchful guards. But the true horror inside these camps went far beyond imprisonment. The system was designed to systematically break people emotionally, mentally, and physically. This video isn't meant to shock, but to explain clearly, based on survivor testimonies and historical research, how everyday life in the camps was filled with methods of control and cruelty that many people have never heard about. The moment a prisoner arrived, the process of dehumanization began. They lost their name, their belongings, even their clothes. A number, often tattooed on their arm, replaced their identity. This psychological blow was the first step, setting the tone for everything that followed. One of the most constant forms of suffering was forced labor. Prisoners worked long, grueling hours, doing difficult manual tasks, digging, carrying heavy stones, building roads, often with barely any food and almost no rest. The goal wasn't productivity, it was exhaustion. The work was meant to wear them down until they had nothing left. Starvation was another daily reality. Rations were so small that prisoners lived in a constant state of agonizing hunger. This physical weakness made the forced labor even more torturous. Many survivors describe this unending hunger as one of the hardest things to endure, a gnawing emptiness that never went away. Humiliation was also used as a powerful tool of control. Prisoners might be forced to stand for hours in humiliating positions, follow pointless orders, or endure degrading public inspections. These acts were designed to strip away every last bit of dignity and individuality, making them feel less than human. A dreaded daily routine was the roll call, known as the apple. These gatherings could last for hours, regardless of the weather, be it freezing cold or scorching heat. Prisoners had to stand perfectly still while guards counted and recounted them. It was exhausting, especially after a full day of hard labor, and many collapsed from sheer fatigue. Physical punishment was widespread and unpredictable. Even the smallest mistake, walking too slowly, a misunderstood order, or a moment of hesitation could result in severe beatings. This unpredictability created a constant, suffocating atmosphere of fear. No one ever felt safe. Sleep deprivation was another form of torture. The barracks were severely overcrowded, with multiple people crammed onto a single wooden bunk. The noise, the poor sanitation, and the constant fear made restful sleep impossible. This lack of sleep slowly eroded their physical strength and their will to live. Some punishments involved confinement in tiny, cramped spaces where prisoners could barely move. These were sometimes called standing cells, so small a person couldn't sit or lie down. Time spent inside was agonizing and often left people unable to stand on their own afterward. Others were thrown into dark, isolated cells for long periods, which caused extreme anxiety and disorientation. These forms of isolation left deep, long-lasting emotional scars. Exposure to the elements also served as a punishment. Being forced to stand outside for hours in the freezing cold or pouring rain, without proper clothing, was a common method used to discipline and intimidate. It was a simple, yet brutal way to break a person's body and spirit. In some camps, prisoners were subjected to horrific medical procedures, disguised as experiments. These were conducted without consent and caused immense pain and suffering. Survivors often described these experiences as terrifying and confusing, with devastating long-term health consequences. Heavy labor punishments were also common. Some prisoners were forced to carry heavy objects back and forth for no reason, or run in circles while carrying heavy loads until they collapsed. These pointless tasks were designed purely to push people past their physical limits. Collective punishment was a particularly cruel tactic. If one person disobeyed a rule or tried to escape, an entire group, sometimes the whole barrack, would be punished. They might lose their meager food rations, be forced to work longer hours, or endure an extended roll call. This created tension and fear among prisoners, turning them against each other when they needed solidarity the most. Stress positions were another method of control. Prisoners were forced to hold painful positions, like squatting or kneeling, for long stretches of time. It was a way to inflict severe discomfort without leaving obvious marks, a form of invisible torture. Guard dogs were used for intimidation. These animals were trained to be aggressive, and their constant presence, the sound of their barking, added another layer of terror to daily life. Mock executions, while not common in all camps, created unimaginable psychological trauma. Prisoners were made to believe their lives were about to end, only for the guards to reverse the situation at the last moment. The emotional whiplash was devastating. The living conditions themselves became a form of torture. Barracks were filthy and overcrowded. Sanitation was almost non-existent, and disease spread like wildfire. This environment weakened everyone, making survival a constant, uncertain struggle. Constant threats of punishment, of being transferred to a worse camp, or of being separated from loved ones kept prisoners in a state of heightened anxiety. The psychological pressure was immense and unrelenting, but perhaps the most devastating element of all was the uncertainty. No one knew what the next day, or even the next hour, would bring. This complete unpredictability made it almost impossible to hold on to hope. Hope felt dangerous, and fear felt like the only constant. As we reflect on these methods today, the purpose is not to sensationalize suffering, but to understand the truth. These were not random acts of cruelty. They were part of a deliberate, calculated system designed to destroy human beings. The only way to truly honor the victims and survivors is to remember what happened with clarity and respect. By studying these events, we protect ourselves from forgetting, and by refusing to forget, we help protect future generations from ever repeating these same terrible mistakes. Thank you for watching.